Good afternoon. My name is David Pritikin. I am a technical project manager at UC Irvine. My colleague Karen Neiswender, is transferred from UCI to UC San Diego and is not able to attend today. As such, she made a short recording that we will hear in just a moment. Since this is a small audience, let's go around and talk about what we do for our campuses. For me, technical project manager, I handle a service, a lecture capture service, a media management solution called UJA, and we're going to be covering a bit about that today. I also handle Poll Everywhere, and I handle Qualtrics, and I am involved with the iClicker clicking audio classroom response system, which we have on our campus as well. I'll pass it to Lyle.
Thank you, David. My name is Lyle. I'm with the Irvine campus, and I do a variety of customer support activities, a lot of documentation and communications and emails and direct customer support, and a certain amount of training and coaching as well.
And Leslie.
I'm Leslie Kern. I'm from UC Santa Cruz. I'm responsible for the Faculty Instructional Technology Center. I'm the Canvas Service Manager, and I'm involved with pretty much every third-party application that touches on either faculty or the learning management system. I am also, we are trying to initiate a huge pilot.
Right. And you, sir.
My name is John Walter. I'm with UCSF IT. I maintain a majority of our codecs, our conference rooms, especially on the health side. I straddle both health and campus entities. We're a Sonic Foundry house, but we're interested in seeing what other options are out there. And so that made us look interesting. And I'm on a project with someone from UCI for the AV sourcing of UCY. And usually actually bidded for all services, which is weird, but they only had one product. And so I'm very curious to know more about this company because they had a very interesting bid. And it's been fascinating to me. I don't know much about them.
Well, you should have a better idea by the end of today on what their platform is. I'm going to, a couple of, what?
Two more people.
Well, both of you work here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought you were both moderators of the room. Are you actually participants as well?
Yeah, where I can. And
My apologies.
No.
Feel free.
I am your friendly room host, but I also work in our student affairs IT shop as a communication coordinator. I used to run a multimedia production team, so we would produce videos or various types of media to relay messages to our students, staff, faculty, about all kinds of things, not just IT, but that shop's since closed, and so now part of my job is whenever we're looking at communicating services or new features or things as random as power outages or whatever to our different audience profiles, using different media platforms to get those messages out. So stuff like Zoom to record webinars or different types of media.
Does that say Carrie?
Yeah, Carrie Bradford with UC Santa Barbara.
And then you.
Oh yeah, my name is Ryan. I'm a student intern here at UCSB, going to my third year. I work at Enterprise Technology Services, and we do a lot of work with Zoom, like for events like these. So I usually set up Zoom events and make sure that they run smoothly and edit them afterwards. So I'll be part of my job, and I wanted to sit in on one of the lectures that I haven't gotten to, so I'm excited to see this one.
So jealous you guys have.
Yeah.
So jealous what?
You guys have undergrads. Everything you're doing, I love someone doing that.
So feel free to interrupt me at any time with questions. We're going to end a little bit early so that we can all go on. And our contact. Go home. Yes, 3-hour drive for me and Lyle. So I'll move on. An introduction to lecture capture. And I'll let you take a look at that, and I'll switch to Karen's recording.
And thanks for joining David for this final session of UCTech. I hope you guys enjoyed a great conference and that you're ready to get all kinds of great information about Lecture Capture Uncorked. So my name is Karen. I'm the co-author here, and I'm currently the Senior Instructional Designer in the Teaching and Learning Commons at UC San Diego. At the time, David and I were working on this particular project. I was actually working in the Office of Information and Technology at UC Irvine. So just to give you a little bit of background on that. So what I'd like to do today is to introduce you to a couple of things. The first is some of the unique needs of instructional videos. So let's just be totally honest about this. Instructors need things simple. They're not producers, they're not technologists. They need things to be straightforward and easy to use. They don't want to spend all of their life working on videos, so things need to have built into them minimal interaction. Why have 3 things to click when you can have 1? Some of the more deeper functionality might not necessarily be applicable to everyone. So make minimal interaction and let those who really want to go deeper dig deeper. It's got to be quick. When you think about the responsibilities an instructor has, taken the time to work through all these individual intricacies of an instructional video and then get them published to the class, it needs to go fast. It needs to be simple, and it needs to just really be understandable. The interaction should have things that you don't have to go and search for. It should be very quick to publish. When you press publish, it shouldn't take a long time. It should go pretty quickly. It should be processed pretty quickly. And again, totally honest here, instructors don't need a lot of editing. They're not doing a lot of splicing and dicing. They're really saying, I don't need to show the first part of the video where I'm getting the PowerPoint up and running, and I don't need to show the last part of the video where I'm pulling up the recorder and pressing stop. Right? I mean, it's pretty straightforward, the kind of editing that most instructors need. And again, I am generalizing significantly here, but you kind of get where I'm coming from. Instructors want to look good, like pretty much any human being, when they're producing instructional videos. So the videos themselves should be high quality. It shouldn't be those situations where the instructor looks out the window and in the process of looking up, their head moves and it gets all pixelated as they move. And there's a couple reasons for this. The first is, of course, being a human, you want to look good on video. But the second is instructional videos are really designed to help students learn. And so there are little nuances, little things that go into lower quality videos that distract students. When things get pixelated, students stop thinking about what the content is and they go, look at that guy's face, it just turned weird when he turned the other way. So the instructional videos really need to be high quality in a very streamlined fashion. So let's talk about a few ways that instructional video is used. The first, and the one that we're all pretty familiar with, is lecture capture, right? Students not in the classroom, they need to see what happened in the classroom, so the instructor turns on the recorder and grabs the screen and what they are saying to the students. Perhaps an instructor is teaching in a large lecture hall, but they're teaching something that is actually done at a workbench or in a lab or in some other different type of environment. So oftentimes an instructor can record something in that different environment and show it to the students in the lecture hall. Talk through what happened, give the students some instruction on what was actually occurring there. And it's a really nice way to combine lecture and lab or workspace videos. Of course, one thing that we're probably all familiar with, and I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on, is chunking content. The key thing with chunking content is taking big pieces of information, big pieces of knowledge that the students have to have, and breaking them into things that are cognitively accessible. In some cases, instructors are prepping students for an exam or a high-stakes assessment, and they need to actually go through some of the things that they've covered in the class. And they need to do it in a quick way. They know the students already have been exposed to these things, but they just need to make sure that they know the key points. Perhaps this also becomes just-in-time instruction. where maybe an instructor walks out of the classroom and realizes from the questions that happen after the lecture that the students didn't fully grasp the material. So this is a good way for the instructor to go back to their desk and say, you know what, I was thinking about this, and let me kind of explain this in a different way. Putting that in a video helps the students review that, and it helps save the classroom time as well. One huge benefit of lecture capture is second language learners. It allows students who are learning a different language to connect the actual words, the letters on the words, with what they're hearing and with what is being taught. So it's a way to start to connect all of those concepts for second language learners to grasp what they're actually learning. In addition, because all videos are captioned, right, it also provides an opportunity for maybe a second language learner to listen to the video in the native English and then to watch it in the tongue that they have learned to speak in. And one of the more fun examples and use cases is student assignments. All right, show of hands in the room, how many of y'all had to do like the 5-page paper when you were in college? And how many of you had to do like a bazillion of them? So imagine how much more interesting it would be if, as a student, instead of being asked to write that exposition on the fall of the Roman Empire, you were able to actually create a video. Pull in some pictures, some media, some videos that you found online, and craft something that actually presented the material in an engaging way. You probably would have learned the material a little bit better as well. So let's talk a little bit about what instructors actually want when you get down to brass tacks. One key one is scheduled recordings. I don't want to have to think about pressing start and stop when I walk into a classroom. I want to just walk in and focus on my material and let the computer do the computer, right? Let me be me, let me do me, let the computer do the computer. So scheduled recordings are huge. Again, the ability to edit and delete recordings. We've talked a little bit about editing, but when you get to deleting, maybe I wasn't as on that day and I don't necessarily want that video to be shared out to the students in the class. Or maybe I realized that there was an error in a PowerPoint, or maybe it was just a take that I was just playing and I really don't want everybody to see it. So I want to be able to adjust what goes out to the students at any given time. I absolutely want to make sure that only the people that I want to have access have access. That could be only the students that are enrolled in my class. Maybe that's only the students at my institution. Okay, so I really want to be able to say who can watch what videos, and that can be a group of videos or that can be individual videos. A side note and an asterisk here, this can also help with some of the accessibility concerns that a number of institutions face. I do want to let students create and share videos. So up until now, or up until recently, a lot of that has been telling the students, oh, go and use iMovie, or go and use your phone, or go and use other tools that I didn't know about as the instructor and I wasn't aware of. So I want something that I can have a common ground with the students, that I can help them record the videos and I can tell them what I'm actually looking for. And you know what? At the end of the day, I'm kind of focusing on the material, and maybe I want my TA to help focus on the tech side and the access side and kind of making sure that everything's running right. So I want to be able to know how to use the system myself, but also give someone else permission and access to kind of act on my behalf. And I don't want to have to think about captioning. I know that I need to do it, and if the IT person sits me and ties me to a chair and talks to me about the importance of accessibility, I will shake my head yes. I'm kidding. Most instructors totally understand the need for accessibility. But the want is always obstructed by the how. So I want something that will do it for me, that I can tell it, please caption that and caption all of my videos. And in some cases, I don't want to do fancy things. There is research that talks about a custom thumbnail will help students engage with the video a little more because it sets them up differently. And maybe I want to see if they're getting something in the middle of the video. Maybe I'm in class, I ask the questions and I use the Socratic method a bunch. But when it gets to the video, the students don't have the benefit of that interaction. So maybe what I want to do is I do want to insert a question at some point. So not every instructor is going to want all these things, but this is kind of a good minimum viable and a good understanding of the context in which our audience are actually going to be using the systems that we put out there. So I'm going to turn it back to David now to talk about what a typical video solution looks like.
So typical video solutions, this is going back a little bit on what we have, what we want, and how do we get there. We had a self-hosted solution, and we were looking for a cloud-hosted solution, mostly because, and they both have pros and cons, but the cloud-hosted solution basically manages the entire video experience, and the tools can be written in such a way that it could allow editing after publishing, and it could allow renaming, and it could integrate with Canvas, and it could integrate with rev.com or FreePlay or any of those other sources after it was recorded. Now, our self-hosted solution was start, stop, maybe trim, then submit, and that's it. You can't do anything after it's published. Some systems have manual recordings direct from the lectern. You could walk up to a lectern and you could push, I want to record, and then you could hit stop and you could control the cameras. Or you could schedule the recordings, like Karen had said, where you could basically take the entire class and schedule it in about a 30-second window at the beginning of the quarter, and then everything is automatically recorded throughout the entire class and put in the right spot, whether that spot be a private location for the instructor to use, to review, to edit, whether that be somebody else who's going to go through and do the editing of captions, or whether that be published directly to the class on Canvas. It's all automated from the beginning of the term all the way through to the end. Does the software that you have or that you're going to purchase have editing, integrated editing? We found that some lecture capture solutions have some editing. Some of them are very basic. Some of them are very advanced. The original one that we had, our legacy solution, had no editing whatsoever. So once you published it, it was done. And if you wanted to edit it, you needed to buy your own software program to edit. Is the application designed for faculty, designed for faculty and staff, designed for faculty, staff, and students? And you find that they're not all equal. The student experience may not be the best student experience, but they don't care. They want the faculty to be the happiest. And that leads to some challenges, because the faculty think, this is easy, I'm recording my classes, why are my students not watching it? And it's because the playback options or the integration options into Canvas are just simply absent. Again, our legacy solution, very simple. In fact, this video right here is burned in to that final image. It is not a separate stream. You cannot expand it larger and view just the talking head. You had to view that video just like that. Do you pick a well-established company? Some of the vendors that I met with proudly boasted, we have more than 1,000 clients, and that we service all of these people. And I thought to myself, I don't want to go with you because you're not going to listen to me. When I tell you my students need to have integration with rev.com because it's $1 a minute and the university can afford $1 a minute in some cases, and you're telling me that the only thing you have is FreePlay Media, which was $1.80 per minute to $2.20 per minute, I'm going to say add rev. And they're going to say, you're one of 1,000. We will put that into our queue, our backlog, which may sit there for a long time. Or even better, if they have a feature that they implemented in a particular way designed for the corporate environment that I want changed for the academic environment, and it's essential, they may not do it. They may turn around and say, well, you know, the majority of our 1,000 customers are corporate. So focusing on the educational unit, a little different. So do you go with the well-established or do you go with the up-and-coming? Quick end-user support. Some companies charge to support your users, and some companies just throw it in. And will they talk to your users, and will they be respectful for your users? And will your users come back to you and say, I wrote them and they treated me like an idiot? Or will they come back to you and say, I wrote them and in 1 hour I got a response in my email box and it was thorough, complete, and solved the problem I was reporting? And rich help documentation. Can you find something? I can't tell you the number of times I've gone to websites and just typed in simple things like upload or like caption, and it comes back with a Google non-indexed search, and which is basically like a list of times that the word upload was in there, and not a menu item that basically themes uploading a video, and here's what you need to know. So what did we do at UC Irvine? We did an analysis of what we had and what we need, and we determined minimum viable product. And that's basically, what do we want? Well, we want to manage video. At the time, which was about 4 years ago, about 4 years ago, we looked at it and said, well, we have a service on campus now. It records videos. It doesn't do a great job of integrating with anything. It's more of a standalone system. But nowadays, every device, every computer, every tablet has a camera on it and can record. So what do we want to focus on most? Well, managing the video, because ingest was critical. We can get the video from a variety of other sources, but once it's inside of our system, we want to be able to do a lot with it. And we want to be able to edit. And we want to be able to create. So you see at the top, it's 2, 3, 1. And we wanted the nice to haves. We wanted to know what would be a benefit to be included in your system versus what is absolutely essential. We identified some providers, and VidGrid used to be known as ILOS. And we invited them to give us a demo. And they did. They all gave us a demo remotely, and we sat around. We watched all the demos, and we asked them tons of questions. And the ones that were terrified to give us pricing information were the ones that we kind of went, that's kind of strange. The ones that were very straightforward, that were very open and honest, and were able to say, we have this, we do this. And if you like our product and we're a good fit, then take us. But if we're not a good fit, you know, we found that UJA. So some of these names you probably know of. Kaltura is like the gold standard for media management, but a number of their customers say they're not as innovative. They're not as cutting edge anymore. They made a solid system, which they charge a lot of money for, and Panopto, which is also a very popular system. But both of those have thousands and thousands of users. And UJA was this company, not startup. They were mid. They were mid-level. And when we joined them, they were very promising. They had one product, which was their lecture capture media management solution. And inside of it, there were suites of applications. And all of their developers and all of their teams worked on this UJA product. They didn't work on 3 different installations. They worked on just the one, and they had really good support. So then what we did was we took the assumptions we had in the minimum viable product document and the solutions that we had found, and we discussed it with faculty and said, here's what we have. And they gave us feedback, and we flexed their document to make sure that we included their feedback. So now we know what they wanted. And we partnered with various campus groups. So this was the success of our relationship. we were able to get a really good price with UJA compared to Kaltura or Panopto. And then we went back to various groups, such as our Paul Mirage School of Business, and said, what are you doing? And they said, we're using MediaSite. I said, how much are you paying? $25,000 a year. And what do you get for that? Well, we get 9 boxes that are recording our 9 rooms, and we get a certain number of users. And every 4 years we have to rebuy our boxes, and every time we do that, it's like $60,000 to rebuy all of our equipment. And I said, well, what if we partnered and we could do that for about $6,000 a year? And their jaws dropped. So we put together a memorandum of understanding, and now we've partnered with them. Some of the challenges we have, managing 2 media management systems. We're still managing 2 because our old system is still being used by a number of people, a very small number of people. And our new system, although it's rocketed up, has not really, it's taken over that space, but it hasn't convinced some of those people to leave the TechSmith Relay. They wanted it real simple. Start, stop, trim, submit. That's it. That's all they needed. And they keep that. So we're working, this fall, we're going to discontinue the use in classrooms. So UJA as an enhanced video solution. So it has Canvas integration, it has Blackboard integration, and inside of the content manager, the content editor inside of Canvas, there's a UJA link. And it brings up this window right here. And what you'll see on there is at the very bottom, well, in the middle, you'll see videos and quizzes. And those are my videos in my library, and those are my quizzes that I have set up for my class. And I could simply scroll through those, click on it, and it will put a thumbnail into the text editor box, and that's it. That's embedding the video. And I can do that fairly simply all over the site because it's part of the rich content editor in Canvas. And that's how I would drop media onto the page. Make the video solution provider a partner. This is what I was talking about. If you choose a large company with 1,000 clients, it's really hard to go back to them and say, give me these features. But if you find a company that really is eager to please, that wants to partner with you, that listens to you, a company that says, we're going to put it in the backlog, and here's your ticket number for the backlog, and when it goes live, we will send you an email telling you that we launched it, and then 2 weeks later, you get an email with some red lines in it that say, you asked for this, we added this, and here's the ticket. And that's what we got from UJA. Centralized, but with strategic campus partnerships. We found that it's not just the faculty who use the videos or use the media management lecture capture system. It's also the instructional designers. It's the high-use groups. It's the groups with specialized or other paid solutions, such as Mirage. And we want to make sure that we contact them and say, this is what we're looking to do. Will it meet your needs? And then when they come back to us and say, well, we want a private space where faculty could record their lecture, put it in a folder just for us, then we want to go in there, make all the edits, add the captions, and then we want to give it back to them so that it can be hosted on their website. Can you do that? And we say, yes, we can. What do admins want? We want captions. We want accessibility. We want universal access. We want flexibility. We want decisions, lots and lots of decisions. And if we get those decisions and we get those options, then we can make some choices. We want streamlined management, but that's not taking away functionality. That's just organizing the functionality in some way where we can turn things on and off. What you have here is the Canvas integration box. And it basically tells you that if you are an administrator on Canvas, what should you be on UJA? If you're a teacher, a TA, or a designer, what access level should you be in UJA? And they didn't have that when I first got UJA. I went back to them, and the reason they added this is because TA was set to student as a hard encoded default. And I said to them, no, 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 you cannot do that. TAs have to be instructor. Can you just change it? And they said yes. And a couple weeks later, they gave me an interface that allowed me to change it to whatever I wanted. And that's how they solved that. On the far right side is the admin panel, which is the menu options for admins. And it's all of the things that admins have access to. We want analytics. We want the thing to tell us how it's being used, who's using it, why, when they're using it, what are they clicking on, what are they re-clicking on, what's the hotspot of the video. They want to know all of that. Instructors want to know that. Admins want to know it. We want to know what browsers they're using. We want to know how many times they watch the video over and over again. Just give us everything, but organize it. Make it easy to view. And then for our analytic faculty, give us the raw data and we'll do this stuff ourselves. So you better do both. You can't just give me some graphs and numbers. You got to give me a download option so that I could export it and I could do my own analytics. And we want happy clients. We want high utilization, 23,760 or 786 users, 9,400 captures. We want media's uploaded media, 928 course integrations, 8,300 captions, auto captions, not human captions. And how many views? 611,000 views in the past 30 days. We want to have access to this information. We want to know that things are being used. And when it's done well, lecture capture can save instructors time. That is mostly what I have for the presentation. Since we have a bit of extra time, I can go in and give a live demo, or I can simply answer any questions.
I'll break the ice.
Break the ice.
UJA seems to have a fairly deep interface. Did you get training? Or was it just easy to discover?
So we got it in June of 2000, I think it was 17. June of 2017, we got it. We established a pilot with them in order to ease our way into it. And I believe they gave us a 30-day kind of free, whatever you want to do with the system, you can. We'll integrate it during that time. You can get familiar with it. And then we went into I think it was a 2,000 user summer pilot, and we were able to invite certain faculty to start using it. I learned it because my background is quality assurance, and I basically went into it and said, does this make sense? Does this not? And I gave them, it must have been close to 500 suggestions in that one summer.
Like you.
In that one summer, I must have given them 500 suggestions. And in fact, they didn't know how to handle all of the suggestions I gave. So they had to come up with a process for not making me feel like I'm just submitting too much. And their process, their support process was really good. They acknowledged receipt of my lengthy emails or my Google Docs, depending on how I shared it with them. So they basically said, we got your notes. We're going to review them and we'll get back to you by two or 3 days with a response. And then line by line, not just a group paragraph saying, thanks, we got it. They went line by line saying, we duplicated this. Here is the bug ID in our tracking system, and we flagged UC Irvine so that when it is fixed, you'll be notified. And they did that for all of it. And some of them, they wrote back saying, we could not duplicate this, which is an important thing to write back. But in an email that's like this, identifying this one saying, we didn't duplicate that is remarkable for a company to do. It means they spent a lot of time, and they did. They spent hours and hours reviewing my feedback and making changes. And they would even be, they would make comments like, I shared this with the team and they thought this was a great idea. Or we don't quite understand why you would want something like this. Could you give us a few more use cases? And I thought all of that was great. So getting to know the system, I had the demo and it was recorded, so I was able to review that, but most of it was just playing around with it. Yeah. Yeah.
So you've told us that you and I have had other conversations about you, Jeff, so just for the room, so people know. You know, you've given us a really positive set of feedback about dealing with them as a company. Sometimes vendor is really good when you first start working with them, but then over time, it pales. You know, they get tired of answering every question, get tired of being so thorough. I don't know. They just get tired. So,
Or they're focused on the next customer.
or they're focused on the next customer. So tell me a little more about the duration of time that you've been working with them and how their responses rate has been across time.
It's been consistent. It's been regular. It did not dip. I never felt like we were not the top client they had. I haven't felt that way, and that's really important because I know exactly what you're talking about. And anyone who has familiarity with Qualtrics support knows exactly what they're going on with, because their salespeople and their support people are disconnected, and you know that. With user support, they've been very consistent, and they've been consistent not just with us but with our clients. So if our faculty I mean, there have been times that I've been at a conference like this, and a faculty member wrote me and said, I can't do A, B, and C with the quiz part of the tool, and I will write to them going, I am looping in Yuja because I am at a conference, and they will respond to both of us directly, quickly, and thoroughly. And in some cases, they'll treat them just the same way that they treat us, which is, we agree this functionality is missing and we need to add it. Here is an ID. We will notify your campus once it's launched. And in some cases, if it's really critical functionality that they just overlooked, they'll say, we will get that out in our next launch, which is in 2 weeks. And they'll put something out. Sometimes they'll even CC the faculty with that launch email, the one that had the red arrows on it. They'll CC the faculty with that, and they'll say, we fixed the thing that you asked about, and that's the customer solution manager. Any other questions, or should I just jump right in? So this is the dashboard, and I have about 7 minutes, so I'll use it. This is the dashboard. We're at 23,000 users right now, and I covered most of this stuff. Underneath is kind of a rolling activity. What?
I love the log.
A rolling activity of the last 30 days. I love the log too, and I suggested they build this log, and I wrote the specifications for building this log, and they ignored my specifications and built their own log. It doesn't have search. I can't say, you know, give me, I just want to see the entries of David Pritikin. What did David Pritikin do? And I can't see just those entries, and that drives me nuts. But I'm still hoping. I did suggest it. But they did give me a bunch of filters here, and oops, I don't know how to use a, yeah. All of that is me. I don't know how to use the trackpad. But here's the filter, and I don't know. So we will skip that for now and jump to devices. Devices are really cool. It's a piece of hardware that goes inside of a classroom and allows us to schedule the classroom to be recorded from a start time to an end time. And then it takes that, encodes it, and then publishes it somewhere. And by having an extra hardware device inside the classroom, we can take all the inputs in, and we don't cause a drag on the lectern computer. And this records behind the scenes. We have a couple of classrooms that have cameras inside of them, and those classrooms will record both the lectern computer feed, or if they have an Apple computer and they plug it into the HDMI input, or if they have a Windows computer and they plug it in, it records all video sources that go to the center projector. or the right projector in some rooms as well. So it's set to record those. Sometimes we have dual monitors, sometimes they independently work, sometimes they work together. So capturing all of that can sometimes be challenging. And one of the things we use Extron equipment, and if you're ever doing lecture capture, there's a hidden setting on Extron called HDCP, which is the high definition copy protection. And if you don't turn that off to the line in, your Apple computer, your brand new Apple computer, will negotiate HDCP all the way through the chain from the computer to the Extron equipment, all the way through to the projector to the screen, will all be secured except the UJA box, which will not record the HDCP copy protected recording. So we had to disable that. But the lesson learned was it took us a quarter to figure that out during our pilot on how to turn that off and what was causing it, because it recorded 1 second and then it quit. So these are it doesn't work like Apple. Nope. How do you use these? There it is. There's a button there. Okay, so here's a couple. So what you have here is you have the camera, and then you have the podium computer. And if I scroll up, and I go here, I have the schedule of all recorded stuff. If I click on this one, it shows the ability to record. And it gives me these toggles. This is scheduled recording and all of the settings that I have. I could do a live stream as well, and I get the URL to the live stream, and I could share that URL. It's off of the screen here. So let me go back, and nope. This is me not knowing how to use a Windows computer. But it's gray. So yeah, I think I'll leave it like that for now. And I covered some of the menu items on the left. What you'll see is platform settings, which control the overall system, the architecture, integration with Shibboleth, Rev.com integration, 3Play Media. The Rev.com integration, that's human captioning. And Rev charges $1 a minute, which is fantastic. And I helped negotiate the Rev.com. I reached out to a contact at Rev and said, can you work with UJA to get Rev into UJA? And they did. They partnered together and they added Rev inside. And now I can add, and they did it for one account, for the whole site, one account. So I said, yeah, that's not quite what I wanted. I wanted every person to have their own Rev.com integration. And they said, we can't give that to you, but we can give you a manual way to set up multiple Rev integrations. That means that I could basically say, these 5 people can use the human captioning button and it will be billed to this Rev.com account. And these other 5 people can use the human capture button and it will be billed to that account. And I'm still out of the loop, but I do have to, that one-time setup, I do have to add that to set things up.
That's awesome, because that's absolutely been a problem for
Yeah.
us with other services. Is how do we keep the right people being associated with the account at the captioning service?
Exactly.
Yes.
And that kind of an integration that allows that flexibility to do individual kind of sets of people going to a particular account is great. What we find is that our online instructors, where you cannot get the media from anywhere else except online, they use the human captioning. If you can get the media in the classroom, they tend to use the auto captioning. And everyone wants to know, how good is the auto captioning? And even if I told you it was 90%, which UJA, I don't know that they would go that high. I think they would go to 85%. But even if I told you 90%, that means 1 out of every 10 words is wrong. And when you really think about it, that 10th word is the pivotal word of the sentence. So when that one word is wrong, the whole sentence can be wrong. So even if I gave you the quote of 90% effective in captioning, sure, it gets the and, the, it gets the small words, it does all of those. And in UJA's case, it actually gets a lot of those big words. So it just depends on how your room is mic'd. It depends on what kind of an accent your speaker has. And it depends, if they're wearing a body mic and they're walking around the room, it's going to get much more consistent audio than a stationary mic at the lectern. And then they walk around the room and their audio goes way down, and then you can barely hear them, and then the system can't hear them, and it won't capture. And we have that. Or if they have a really thick accent. Now they added a feature, and we're over time. They added a feature that if your class is entirely in Spanish, you could use the auto caption dictionary that is in Spanish. And they have a couple of languages, Spanish, German, French. And so if you want to focus mostly on those words, you could flip the auto caption language, and then it will use those dictionaries. Any last questions about UJO before I let you all travel to where you're going, since this is our last session at UCTech 2019.
Good, John.
Thank you so much for attending.